The day my father died was the day I realized how little he truly knew me. The funeral was a blur of sympathetic glances and hushed whispers. My cousin Mark was practically vibrating with a smug energy that made my skin crawl. He kept patting my shoulder, his voice dripping with fake concern. "Don't worry, Sarah, your dad made sure everyone was taken care of." I knew what that meant. It meant he was about to get everything, and I was about to get nothing. The will reading was exactly as I'd predicted. A stuffy lawyer droned on, his voice monotone until he reached the final pages. My father's entire estate, the house I grew up in, his portfolio. Even his prized vintage car collection was bequeathed to his beloved nephew, Mark. To me, his only daughter, he left a small, insulting sum of $10,000 with the note, for her continued education should she choose to pursue it. I was already a successful surgeon. The room fell silent, all eyes on me. Mark had the audacity to give me a little shrug, a theatrical look of pity on his face. My aunt, his mother, shot me a triumphant smirk. They thought they had won. They thought I would break down, scream, or cry. I did none of those things. I simply stood up, thanked the lawyer for his time, and walked out. Back in my apartment, the quiet was deafening. I could feel the anger simmering, a hot, molten core in my chest. This wasn't about the money, it was about the betrayal. My father and I had a complicated relationship, especially after my mother passed away. He became distant, easily swayed by my aunt's constant whispers in his ear. She had always been jealous of my mother, and by extension, of me. For years, she had been poisoning my father's mind, painting me as a rebellious, ungrateful daughter who had abandoned him for my career. And Mark, her golden child, was the perfect pawn in her game. He was always there, fetching my father's slippers, laughing at his jokes, playing the role of the devoted son I apparently wasn't. It was all a long, calculated con, and now they were reaping the rewards. But they had made one critical, fatal error. They had underestimated me. They had forgotten one very important detail from years ago. I walked over to the large, unassuming painting on my living room wall. It was a landscape my mother had painted. I swung it aside, revealing the cold gray steel of a wall safe. My fingers trembled slightly as I keyed in the code my mother's birthday. The heavy door clicked open. Inside, nestled among my own important documents and a few pieces of my mother's jewelry, was a thick manila envelope. I pulled it out, my heart hammering against my ribs. The paper was crisp, the signature at the bottom bold and unmistakable. It was my father's original will. I remembered the day he wrote it, about a year after my mother died. He was still grieving, still lucid. We sat in his study and he told me, his voice thick with emotion, that everything he had was for me. "Your mother would have wanted it this way," he'd said. "You're our legacy, Sarah." He had it officially drafted and notarized. He gave me one of the 2 original copies for safekeeping. "You never know," he'd said with a wink, "what kind of vultures might start circling." How right he was. The will they had read today was a newer version, clearly drafted when his health was failing and my aunt's influence was at its peak. The signature was shaky, almost a scribble. It was a document born of manipulation and deceit. And I had the one thing that could prove it. The next morning, I didn't call a lawyer. Not yet, I had a different plan. I called Mark. "Hey cousin," I said, my voice sweet as honey. "I was thinking, since you're the new man of the house, maybe you could help me clear out a few of my old things from Dad's study. I'd really appreciate it." He was hesitant at first, but the thought of me admitting defeat was too delicious for him to resist. "Of course, Sarah," he oozed. "Anything for family." When I arrived at the house, my childhood home, a wave of nostalgia and sorrow hit me, but I pushed it down. This wasn't the time for sentiment. Mark was already there, directing movers, a king in his new castle. My aunt was fussing over a vase, her eyes gleaming with avarice. I walked straight to the study. The old oak desk stood exactly where it always had. "I just need to grab a few old photo albums from the bottom drawer," I told Mark, who was hovering in the doorway. "Could you give me a hand?" It stuck. As he bent down to yank on the drawer, I accidentally knocked a stack of books off the desk. They scattered across the floor. "Oh, clumsy me!" I exclaimed. As we both knelt to pick them up, I palmed the small, hidden key taped to the underside of the desk, a secret my dad and I had shared. While Mark was distracted with the drawer, I swiftly unlocked a small, concealed compartment at the back of the desk. My father had shown it to me when I was a teenager, a place for his most private papers. I slipped the original will inside, right on top of a stack of old letters. Then, I let Mark succeed in pulling the drawer open. I took out a dusty photo album and thanked him profusely. Phase 1 was complete. Now for Phase 2. I called my own lawyer, a bulldog of a woman named Miss Davies. I explained everything. The 2 wills, the manipulation, the whole sordid affair. Her eyes lit up. "This is a classic case of undue influence," she said, "but proving it can be tricky. That original will is our smoking gun. The fact that he gave it to you for safekeeping speaks volumes about his intent at the time. We filed a petition to contest the will. The court date was set. My aunt and Mark were furious. Their lawyer was confident, arrogant. They thought my claim was baseless, the desperate act of a disinherited daughter. They had no idea what was coming. In court, their lawyer painted me as a cold, career-driven woman who was never there for her father. My aunt took the stand and cried crocodile tears, talking about how she and Mark had dedicated their lives to caring for my poor, lonely brother. It was a masterful performance. Then it was our turn. Miss Davies called me to the stand. I simply told the truth about my relationship with my father and the day he gave me his will. Then came the masterstroke. Miss Davies called a handwriting expert to the stand, who testified that the signature on the newer will, while technically my father's, showed signs of physical weakness and potential duress. The judge was listening intently. Finally, Miss Davies announced, "Your Honor, we would like to present evidence recently recovered from the deceased's private study." She explained about the hidden compartment and how we had a court order to open it in front of everyone. Mark and my aunt exchanged a nervous glance. The bailiff brought in the desk from my father's study. A locksmith was called to open the compartment, as I couldn't remember the combination to the lock I had installed myself just days before. The small door swung open. Miss Davies reached inside and pulled out the manila envelope. The room was utterly silent as she handed it to the judge. He opened it, read the first page, then looked at the signature. He compared it to the other will. The difference was stark. He read the date, noting it was years before the second will was created. He looked over his glasses, first at a pale-faced Mark, then at my aunt, who looked like she was about to faint. "It seems," the judge said, his voice booming in the quiet courtroom, "that Mr. Henderson had a very different idea of where his legacy should go." He declared, "The second will invalid due to clear evidence of undue influence, and reinstated the original will, the one that left everything to me." The gasp from my aunt was audible. Mark just stared, his mouth hanging open. Their perfect plan had crumbled to dust. As court was adjourned, I walked past them. I didn't say a word. I just met Mark's gaze and gave him a tiny, satisfied smile. Sometimes justice isn't about shouting from the rooftops. It's about playing the long game, knowing the truth, and waiting for the perfect moment to reveal it. My father might have forgotten who I was in his final days, but I made sure the world would remember who he wanted me to be. His sole heir. The house, the money, the cars, they were all mine now. But the sweetest prize of all was the look on their faces. That was an inheritance you just can't put a price on. Thanks so much for watching my story. If you've ever dealt with a difficult family situation, let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more content. See you next time.